The Bible is full of crazy stories about kings who had kingdoms to run but ran them into the ground. I mean, just look at the list of crazies we have. Saul, who throws tantrums and kills people when he's not feeling loved enough. David, who murders a guy just to cover up an affair. And Solomon, who makes one bad decision after another in his old age. But maybe their crazy stories are what make them so interesting. Maybe that's why we keep coming back to their stories. Or maybe we like to think that we would do better if we were in charge. In today's video, we're going to explore 3 amazing biblical stories that will show us what it was really like to be king in the Bible. Okay, here we go. Story No. 1. David becomes king. After a long journey from Gath, where he escaped from King Saul, David settled down in the town of Ziklag in the region of Philistia. It was a peaceful place. He could finally put down some roots, build a house, raise his family. But even there, his past wouldn't let him rest. The Philistine king wanted David to perform for his amusement and compete against his champions. When the time came, David faced off against the champion named Goliath, the Gittite. That name doesn't sound familiar because later David will kill someone else named Goliath. This Goliath was bigger than David and had armor that weighed 5,000 shekels of silver. This Goliath wasn't as well known as the previous one, but he was no less fierce. He carried a spear like a weaver's organ, and it was as thick as a weaver's beam. David felt intimidated, but still picked up a staff and 5 smooth stones. He waited until the moment was right, then threw a stone that hit the giant right between the eyes. You know the story. After defeating Goliath, David became famous throughout the land. The fame made him popular among Israel's tribes, but it also made him enemies. The current king of Israel, King Saul, saw David's popularity as a threat to his power and tried to kill him. So David had to escape. Scene 2. On the run from King Saul, David hides in caves and deserts, leading a band of loyal men who eventually become known as the 120 elders of Israel. While hiding, David hears that Saul has died and that his son, Ishbaal, has become king in his place. Now, after years of waiting, the people of Israel want David to be their king. But David isn't eager to take the throne. He wants to honor Saul and refuses to accept the crown unless Ishbaal dies. Eventually, Ishbaal's reign ends in a violent death during a fight over women. David accepts the crown and becomes the king of Israel. Under David's rule, Israel flourishes. God gives him many sons and daughters, and Jerusalem becomes the capital of the United Kingdom of Israel. David's kingdom lasts for 40 years, and he rules wisely, fairly, and with great power. However, not all is perfect. Although David defeated the Philistines, they still remain a threat. And later, one of his own sons will rebel against him. In spite of the future challenges, the people celebrate David's coronation with a festival of dances and songs. Even King David joins in and dances before the Lord with all of his might. Story No. 2. David and Bathsheba. Scene 1. One evening, while the king was walking around on the roof of his palace, he saw a woman bathing. She was beautiful. The woman was named Bathsheba, the wife of Uriah the Hittite, one of David's soldiers. That night David couldn't sleep, thinking about the woman he had seen. He sent for her and she came to the palace. They slept together, and Bathsheba returned home. A few months later, Bathsheba discovered she was pregnant. Scene 2. David calls for Uriah, the husband of Bathsheba, and asks him how he's been and how the fighting is going. Uriah tells the king that the armies haven't yet attacked, but then lies and says he's already covered in dust. David tells him to go home and wash himself, inviting him and Bathsheba to come to the palace that night. But Uriah didn't realize why David invited them. During the feast, David gets drunk, expecting Uriah to sleep with Bathsheba so that she can get pregnant again. However, Uriah refuses and tells the king he has sworn an oath to not touch food or drink and to only eat what he has already carried. Disappointed, David sends him back home. Days later, Bathsheba becomes pregnant again, and everyone knows that it's David's child. To hide his sin, he comes up with a plan. He writes a letter to the king of Moab and asks him to trade wives. David receives a wife from the king of Moab and sends Bathsheba with her husband, Uriah, back to their city. He orders Uriah to have the letter delivered to the king of Moab, hoping that he will think it's okay to sleep with Bathsheba. But Uriah doesn't understand what the letter means. He takes the letter to the king of Moab without opening it, and the king reads it. Instead of sleeping with Bathsheba, Uriah returns home again. Furious, David calls Uriah back and orders him to take the letter to the king of Moab. But before Uriah can leave, David tells him that he's sending him to the front lines to face the Ammonite army. He hopes that Uriah will die in battle, and that nobody will notice that the child inside Bathsheba is his. Unfortunately, David's plan works. Uriah is killed in battle. Soon after, Bathsheba arrives in Jerusalem, and David takes her as his wife. But Nathan the prophet confronts him for what he did. David repents and confesses his sins. God forgives him, but the consequences of his actions remain. David's son, born out of wedlock, will grow up to betray and rebel against him. Story No. 3. Absalom's Rebellion. Years have passed since David took the throne. His son Absalom has grown into a tall, handsome young man. Everyone loved him, especially the women. There was just one problem. Absalom wasn't born of a wife, but of a concubine. The law said that he couldn't inherit the throne. However, David's other sons weren't exactly models either. They were wicked, rebellious, and often got into trouble. Absalom grew frustrated seeing how irresponsible his brothers were, and he began to plan a rebellion. He traveled throughout the country raising an army, winning the support of many, including his sister Tamar. Once he had enough followers, he went to Jerusalem to confront his father, who refused to accept his plan for the kingdom. Absalom wanted his father to officially declare that he would be the next king. But David banished him from the kingdom. Unable to change his father's mind, Absalom gathered more troops and started a civil war. Scene 2, meanwhile, David is forced to flee Jerusalem with only a few men by his side. He leaves the city through the east gate, which used to be the main entrance to the city, but now the road is overgrown. David's group grows larger as they walk. People from Judah, Ephraim, and Manasseh join him on the way. Absalom, however, continues to gain followers, and soon a massive battle takes place. At the end of the day, David's army wins, but his son Absalom is killed. After the victory, David allows his men to plunder the city, but forbids them from killing anyone. Some time passes, and David feels ready to return to Jerusalem. As he enters the city, he encounters a man named Shimei who curses Absalom and David for leaving Jerusalem in such a bad state. David reacts calmly, but Shimei keeps cursing him. Once they arrive at the palace, David's men want to punish Shimei, but the king stops them and lets him go. That same day, David redecorates the city and prepares a celebration in honor of his men. Okay, these stories are incredible, aren't they? If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to share your thoughts below. We love hearing what you have to say. Thanks for joining us on this journey through the Bible. Remember, you are amazing. Keep being you. See you next time.